Yo, welcome Diablo 4 enthusiasts, ready for the hurricane Druid that makes whirlwind barbs look like little kids playing with wooden swords? Yes? Then let's jump right into the guide. So this is the Diablo 4 build calculator. This allows us to theorycraft even though we have no access to the beta at the moment. And with this tool I will provide the guide to you, and you will also find a link to this specific setup in the video description down below, so you can follow along and you have a cheat sheet that you can use while you're playing the beta with minimal effort. The special how to say it, skill of the Druid is actually the Boons. But the Boons need to be unlocked in a map area that is currently not available in the beta. So we sadly have to wait until we can use this full function here. Now let's take a look about the skills. Our basic skill is going to be Wind Shear. And we are not using it as a damage dealer. The reason why we use it is it makes the enemies vulnerable if we're going into the enhanced one, and it allows us, for each enemy that we're hitting, we are gaining additional spirit. So we are gaining 12 spirit if we cast it, and we're gaining 1 additional spirit if we are hitting an enemy. So this is a real, really good generator. And if we're following along now with our core skill, you will slowly realize why we need this big generator to come alongside. So right here, the maximum spirit is increased by 3. The only reason we are taking this is to gain access to wild impulses. Because this will, our core spells cost 15% more spirit, but they will also deal 30% more damage. And this is why we need this strong generator up front. Then one of our 2 main damage sources, or continuously damage sources, is going to be the tornado right here. And there's something special about the tornado. It does a lot of damage, but it is random. So you cannot decide where you actually want to shoot it at, but we will show you later a trick how you can actually bypass this and get the full potential out of the tornado. Then we want to cast as much tornadoes as possible, so with our enhanced one we have the chance to spawn an additional one for every 5 tornadoes we are casting. And this, paired with our high increase of spirit gain, will allow us to cast a lot of tornadoes. And then again, we are having a chance, if a tornado hits an enemy, to make the enemy vulnerable. Keep in mind with all the things that are making the enemies vulnerable, that's going to be important later on. Then now when we're going into the defensive tree, we are a melee. So we are lacking mobility. We are not like a wizard or a rook who can dash or teleport around. So we need to put a point into Earthen Bulwark. And what's important about this is actually not the barrier. The barrier is good, but what we actually need it for is that Earthen Bulwarks makes us unstoppable and allows us to break out of a CC and to reposition ourselves when we are caught in a big group of mobs. So this is really important. We don't need anything else, we just need this unstoppable one, so we don't have the risk of dying. Then next up, we are going to go with the Cyclone Armor. And this will provide us with 20% non-physical damage reduction, so it's great against all the packs and bosses that are doing elemental damage. And also the active means we can knock back enemies. So it's similar to give us some breathing room to reposition, similar to Earthen Bulwark. So the priority in casting is also you want to use Cyclone Armor first and only use Earthen Bulwark if you actually have to, because this is a more powerful repositioning tool than Cyclone Armor. Then on the companion side, we are passing totally, but we want to put the full power into Hurricane, therefore. So the Hurricane has a 20-second cooldown, but also it's another spell similar to the Tornado that does more than 100% damage and is surrounding yourself. So basically you're a melee The monsters are going to run at you anyways, so it's at a perfect way. And the slow here is not that important, but what's important again is that this has a chance to make the enemies vulnerable. Enemies that are vulnerable take by default 25% increased damage, but we will talk later about how you can increase this even further. And now you still have space on your bar to choose an ultimate. And here the perfect ultimate again is Cataclysm. This allows us for 8 seconds to spawn tornadoes, and those tornadoes actually knock back the enemies, so they're a bit stronger than our normal ones. And during the storm, there's basically lightning strikes going down. This is not important damage-wise. It's more important if we are looking at the Cataclysm right here, because this also makes enemies vulnerable. So we have a lot of tools to make our enemies vulnerable. Now that we understood what our main goal is, so we want to spawn as many tornadoes as possible, we always want to have damage around us that is active, and if we are in a big situation like fighting against a boss or against a pack, we are having a 10-second duration ultimate to take them down in no time. And to actually provide this build, you don't have to hunt for like a lot of legendaries until you can actually get this build running. I would even say to get this build running you need 0 legendaries, but there's 4 legendaries that are pretty good to adjust your skills. So one is the aspect of Tempest. This means that the hurricane damage is increased by a decent amount percentage each second while it is active, so it scales up, and we are having already 8 seconds, so we are scaling here pretty hard. Then next up we are having the Storm Chaser aspect. Remember when I said the tornadoes are going random? As soon as you have this legendary, they will not go random anymore and actually seek the target's number that is on the legendary. We are here on an offensive stat. Tornadoes that are going nowhere where the enemies are, they will not provide no value. So I highly recommend placing this into your weapon, which gives a bonus increase. As you can see right here, it's a 100% bonus if you put it into your weapon, which means it will double the targets the tornadoes will be chasing. So this is probably the best legendary you can get, and I would put it into my weapon. Besides this, you're basically totally free with the legendaries you find. And yeah, I would rather go into a bit more defensive ones. So you're actually tanky since you are melee. And if you're doing a slight mistake, you can also survive without going into too much trouble, especially since I'm personally a hardcore player, so I always make sure that the builds are playable in softcore and hardcore as well. Then Cyclone Armor here, we really learned that it provides 20% damage reduction versus element, and now it also applies against physical damage, and if you're playing in a group, this is even better, because now your friends can also have the same buff. We are using Earthen Bulwark, and so it might be good to get this one, but even though we cannot get the full value out of the legendary because it will only increase the duration, but we are not having earth skills. But if you find it, I will probably keep it until I can get a legendary, something like as soon as you damage an elite, you're getting a barrier. Those legendaries are really good as a defensive stat. And then last up, we have already learned that we are heavy resource dependent, so we can actually keep spamming our tornadoes. And there's actually something that makes our wind shear even better. And this is this right here. This gives us a chance to fully restore our spirit with our normal basic attacks, instead of only getting us between like 12 to 20 spirit back. And this, if you hit this once, you can instantly spawn all the tornadoes again, so it is really, really strong. So now that we covered the missing boons, all the skills you need, and the legendary affixes that you need to keep your eyes open during your grind, there's only one thing left we need to talk about. The stats you should go for on your armor. And here the most valuable stat is the extra damage percent versus vulnerable enemies. So having this stat on your gear paired with tanky stats like vitality, reduced damage and such will turn up this build's potential even higher, and we are making full use of all the skills we have talked about that are actually making enemies vulnerable. So we are using this fact to the max. If you want to watch me play this build on hardcore, feel free to tune in my livestream here on YouTube this Friday when the beta will hit at 17 MEZ. I will be able to answer all your questions immediately and we can optimize the level up process together. Looking forward to seeing you in the beta and in the stream. Cheers! Thank you very much for watching this video all the way to the end. If any questions still rush through your mind, feel free to comment below the video. For more in-depth questions and to stay up to date on the most OP builds, I recommend joining my Diablo 4 Discord community. If you want to support the content creation process, feel free to purchase a channel membership